very much indeed. We're approaching the end of this very fascinating evening, and I've been given the responsibility of trying to sum up what has been said so far. And the first thought that runs through my mind is something I experienced in 1968, actually on August 20th, 1968, when some of you may remember the Russians invaded Czechoslovakia, and we all thought that World War III was beginning. And I was on holiday on that day celebrating the birthday of one of my daughters, and Cronkite called and said, "Marvin, you've got to come in immediately. The Russians have invaded Czechoslovakia. You're going to be at the very top of the broadcast. Take as much time as you like, but you've got to answer a simple question. Why did they do this?" And I'm very serious, he said. Take as much time as you like. Take 45 seconds. But I've been given a minute or two, so hang on. Look, we have all focused tonight on a very serious issue, and as I was listening to the counselor speak, my mind went to a fantasy for a moment. Every organization has to have in its soul a conscience, and in a funny kind of way, Israel may be the conscience of the UN. And what I have in mind is that if we imagine for a moment the UN without Israel, what would it be? And the questions that would immediately arise are stunning in their implication. Israel must be at the UN, must be fully legitimate at the UN, as all of the other countries represented there. But then how do you deal with the non-aligned nations? How do you deal with this problem? It's a huge subject, and it's been a subject for a long time, and it's likely to continue to be a subject, the effort to rob Israel of its legitimacy. You know, the Arabs are there, and in the old days, the Soviet bloc, and now it's the Russians still trying to hang on to residual power in that part of the world. And one can argue that it is simply not fair, this delegitimization of Israel. But if you look at the other side, which we get as reporters every day, the Arabs will say that it's not fair that the Palestinians have been oppressed. And then you ask them, what is the oppression? And they give you their definition. And many of them, by the way, are quite serious in what they say. It is not just propaganda, what they say. They believe it. A good many of them do. I suspect if we had a vibrant peace process underway, the effort to delegitimize Israel would lose some of its steam. It would still be there, but it would lose some of its steam because we in the press would be focused on resolutions going one way or the other, on the possibility of a breakthrough. I was with Secretary Kissinger when he did those early negotiations with first the Egyptians and then the Syrians and then the Jordanians came a little later. But the idea then that you could even have this kind of agreement was beyond our grasp. But you did get the agreement because it was ultimately in the national interest of the countries, and it was led by a determined United States. I would like to believe, and I turn to Senator Cardin on this, if there were the same kind of determination today on the part of the USG that there was in the 1970s, right after the 1973 war, possibly something could develop. But we don't see that. That's unfortunate. And in addition, a kind of fatigue has set in to this issue. There's a fatigue with a peace process that never seems to be getting anywhere, a fatigue with the requirements of domestic politics in Israel and in the United States. And we live in a world that has lost patience with old, persistent problems because it's now so overwhelmed with the urgency of a whole set of new problems, and oil is not a new problem, but it's always there. And newly emerging as a problem is the Sunni-Shia split in Islam throughout the Islamic community, and there is the appearance of nonstop war. We seem to be hovering right now on another conflict which may involve Iran. So we seem to end up counting and courting votes at the UN, which is a tedious but very necessary job, and no one does it better than a jury in terms of moving governments in the right direction. And I take my hat off to the organization and to Ambassador Dick Shifter, my friend who I've known for a really long time and admired him for such a long time. But this is a very difficult job. And not only my hat goes off to you, but my sense of where do you get the patience, the determination, and what it ends up being is that you feel it's the right thing to do. It must be done. And so it is done. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much for being with us tonight. And I want at this point to introduce Jonathan Simon, who's Bethel Men's Club chairman, I guess, or big shot in any way, and from Algeria, and he will provide our final comment. Where is he? Here he is. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kalb. Senator Cardin and Ambassador Moses, who I know had to leave to make a plane tonight, Ambassador Shifter, Councilor Benjamin, and distinguished guests. I think I speak for all of us here this evening by expressing our heartfelt thanks for all that each and every one of you has done and continue to do for Israel. We deeply appreciate, thank you. We deeply appreciate the time that you've taken to join us tonight, to educate us, to enlighten us, and to inspire us. Thank you. I'd also just like to take a second to give special thanks to someone who has also worked extremely hard to help put tonight's event together, Sharon Wilkes, the jury's executive director, who puts her heart and soul into everything that she does for a jury. And now the rest of you may be asking yourselves, what can I possibly do to help defend Israel in the UN? Well, let me give you 3 answers. First, continue to educate yourselves and others about this issue. Leave here tonight as individual ambassadors, spreading the word that the UN's treatment of Israel is not hopeless, that it can be changed, and that it is being changed. And as a way of educating others, consider starting a small group in your own synagogue, church, or organization. We'll be happy to get you UN background materials, including the voting records of specific countries, and we can even help get you a speaker to address your organization. Number 2, become a valuable resource to a jury and our efforts by sharing a little bit of your professional background and expertise with us, whether it's in health or medicine, education, economic development, agriculture, crime prevention, or environmental issues, you name it. You can be a potential resource for us. Folks, the beauty of what we are doing is not just about defending Israel. It's also about tikkun olam, the Jewish concept of repairing the world, as we try to assist the people of some of these smaller, traditionally friendly countries whose own concerns are overlooked, as we try to build bridges between them, the U.S., and the people of Israel. So please, if you would, look in your Ajiri folders that you were given tonight and take out this little postcard that you see inside. I'd like you to jot down just 1 or 2 areas of knowledge or expertise that you might be able to share with us. Perhaps you may have a personal contact in another country. Maybe you know a member of Congress or his or her staff. That would be extremely helpful to us. So take out this card and just take a moment to jot down a couple of things that might be of help and include your name and your contact information. When you're done, flip the card over, and on the other side, please feel free to write down any questions that you might have concerning tonight's topic. We apologize, but due to time constraints, we won't be able to answer your questions from the floor tonight. A jury will try to get you an answer as soon as possible, so just give the card to a Nigerian representative either now or on your way out tonight. Now here is the third way that you can help us. Friends, we need your financial support. A jury's success can only continue if people like you are willing to help us. Remember, in the UN General Assembly, the vote of the tiniest nation of the UN, the Republic of Nauru, is equal to that of the People's Republic of China. The work we are doing is difficult and complex, but I can tell you from personal experience how extremely rewarding it has been to see countries that have voted against the US and Israel in the past begin to change their votes. But we still need to reach out to dozens of these countries. We have to go at them on a one-on-one basis. We need all the resources we can get to expand our staff, to accelerate our efforts, to track UN votes, to expand our research, and create the reports and background information that members of Congress need so that they in turn can reach out to the heads of these governments. It's a big undertaking, yet a jury is the only organization whose sole focus is to defend Israel from attacks in the UN. And frankly, we just can't continue to do it without your help. A jury is a 501c3 organization, and so every dollar that you provide us is tax deductible. This coming year, several additional anti-Israel initiatives are expected to come to the floor of the UN. Friends, there is just too much at stake here, and frankly, there's no one else but a jury to do this work, and we simply cannot do it alone. And if a jury doesn't do it, who will? So please, give some thought and consideration to writing a jury a check this evening, or if you prefer, use your credit card out in the lobby afterwards, where we can use that to express your support. And now, before I invite all of you to join us downstairs in the social hall for dessert and coffee, please remain for just a few moments as Hazzan Abraham Lubin leads us in a concluding song as we keep Israel in our hearts and prayers. And last but not least, I leave you with the same 5 words that my colleague Harvey Gershman always includes at the end of every email he has sent over the past year. Now, let's change some votes. Thank you all for coming, and shalom.
I want to thank Helena Nusimovic, who will accompany me in the 3 words that the whole evening is about. Am Yisrael Chai.
Come on! Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. O Davinu Chai, O Davinu Chai, O Davinu, O Davinu, O Davinu Chai, O Davinu Chai, O Davinu Chai, O Davinu, O Davinu, O Davinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael 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 Chai. O Davinu Chai, O Davinu Chai, O Davinu, O Davinu, O Davinu Chai. David